The story starts with a dark night. A woman was alone at home. Suddenly, someone started banging loudly on her door. She kept asking repeatedly, "Who is it?" But there was no response from outside. As soon as she tried to open the door, everything changed in the very next moment. When she regained consciousness, she found herself standing outside the door. Now, that same woman was standing outside, banging on the door. Suddenly, there was a jolt, and she woke up from the terrifying dream. Her husband was sleeping peacefully beside her. She realized it was just a bad dream. The woman's name was Monet. She ran an antique shop. Recently, her father had passed away due to liver disease, which left her mentally disturbed. Even while cooking, she remained lost in thoughts. Her husband, Jack, who had to travel to another city for work, made their son wear an old but valuable-looking locket before leaving and strictly instructed him never to take it off. After her husband left, Monet got back to her work. One day, while they were handling an old painting in the shop, Monet's mother, Rosa, felt something strange. She told Monet that the painting was unlucky for the house and suggested either selling it or throwing it away far from home. But Monet dismissed it as superstition and ignored her. That same evening, Rosa saw a black crow sitting on a tree outside the house. She started sensing that something bad was about to happen. That night, while the family was praying for the soul of Monet's late father, the same crow came and sat on that tree again. As Rosa tried to chase it away, suddenly a swarm of locusts flew all over the house. At that very moment, Monet's staff member, Henry, was playing video games in the room. A locust landed on his finger, and he suddenly felt a strange excitement. Laughing, he lit a lighter. Meanwhile, that mysterious painting slowly starts to change. Henry's image appears in it, and then disappears within moments. The next day, Monet goes to the market with a few people and asks Frida to look after her son for a while. But when Monet's friend Frida goes to look for Henry in the room, she only finds a pile of straw and scattered belongings. There is no sign of Henry anywhere. The three of them assume that Henry must have gone out for something and don't pay much attention. They leave for the market. As soon as they return home, they see an unfamiliar car parked outside. Inside, Monet's son is talking to a guest. In fact, that guest is none other than Adele, Monet's father's first wife, along with her two children. Monet gets nervous seeing them but has no choice but to invite them in. Rosa once again sees the crow on that same tree, and their hearts start to sink. Adele and her children begin inspecting every corner of the house, as if they want to claim ownership of it. They find the house very old and dirty. Adele's son says they will stay at a hotel, but Adele clearly states that this house belongs to her, no matter what condition it is in. She will live here now. Rosa becomes completely certain that Adele has come with some hidden motive. To ease the tense atmosphere, Monet suggests taking Adele to her father's memorial, but Adele immediately refuses. The pride on Adele's face was clearly visible. Monet quietly goes to the kitchen to prepare something to eat, and at that moment, Adele notices an old photograph with Rosa in it. Contempt was clearly visible in Adele's eyes. As evening fell, everyone once again gathered at Monet's house to pray for her father's soul. After the prayer, Adele finally revealed the real reason for her visit. She said that the next day a government officer would come to survey their house and land, and Monet should keep the property documents ready. Rosa did not stay silent on this. Angrily, she said that Adele had left this house 30 years ago. She didn't even attend her husband's last rites, so now she had no right over this land. Adele remained indifferent, and Monet looked completely helpless. The next day, when the officer arrived to inspect the land, something strange was seen in the nearby fields. The entire land was covered with locusts. Everyone panicked and quickly returned to their vehicles. Thankfully, there was no damage, and everyone reached home safely. On the night of the third day, Adele asked Monet for the house and land papers. She expressed her intention to sell the property, but Monet opposed it, saying that she had cared for her father until his last breath, and now this house was rightfully hers. A heated argument broke out between the two, and Rosa became so furious that she overturned the table in anger. During this, Adele's son suddenly started behaving anxiously and fearfully. He felt that by not attending his grandfather's funeral, he had angered his soul. He taunted his mother, saying that if the house was sold, where would Monet and her son live? But Adele, in rage, slapped him hard. The real reason was that Adele was still battling her old wounds. She revealed that when Monet's father had a relationship with Rosa, and Monet was born, Adele felt betrayed and left the house forever. Rosa, crying, says that she never knew that Monet's father was already married. Both women had been victims of the same man's deception. Now she pleads with Adele not to fight with Monet over this house. Tears also well up in Adele's eyes. The betrayal of one unfaithful man had destroyed 2 lives. Meanwhile, when Adele's son goes to bed to sleep, he suddenly feels a strange itch on his back. When he looks in the mirror, he sees that a leech is trying to burrow into his back. Then he looks toward the ceiling. Hundreds of leeches are crawling there, and the next moment, they all start falling on him. Terrified, he tries to open the door. But just then, that mysterious painting changes again. Now his own image appears in the painting. The next day, Adele starts accusing Monet personally. She says that Monet's husband Jack was already married, just like what happened with Rosa. Rosa can't tolerate it anymore. In anger, she picks up a stick and beats Adele. Seeing this, Adele's daughter stands trembling in a corner out of fear. By afternoon, Adele gets exhausted searching for her son. Now she has to call the police. Meanwhile, Andy, Monet's friend, informs the police that another store staff member, Henry, has also disappeared without informing anyone. Now everyone starts believing that this is not a normal matter. By evening, Adele's daughter develops rashes and itching all over her body. Crying, she tells her mother that they can't stay here any longer. But Adele stubbornly refuses. She says she won't leave until the house is sold. Furious, she storms out of the house. But just then, the door shuts by itself. She tries to get back inside, but the door doesn't budge at all. Inside, her daughter is screaming. Insects start crawling out of her body. She keeps banging on the door. At the same time, a terrifying scarecrow slowly starts approaching her. Adele runs to call everyone. But when they all open the door, there's no one inside. Only scattered straw on the floor and an eerie silence. Meanwhile, Rosa suddenly feels the presence of Monet's father. She follows that strange feeling and starts walking down the stairs. On the other hand, Fida is cleaning. Suddenly, she notices several dirty footprints appearing on the stairs, though she doesn't know when they came. A strange fear grips her from within. Meanwhile, Rosa arrives at a nearby antique store and suddenly feels restless upon seeing a painting. Without wasting time, she grabs a pair of scissors and tries to cut the scarecrow figure drawn in the creepy painting. But just then, lightning strikes loudly, and when she turns around, she sees that the painting has returned to its original state, completely undamaged. After the 5th day's prayer, Rosa asked Monet to call a woman named Georgia. Georgia inspected the house and said that some sinister force was surrounding the entire house. As soon as she saw the painting, she said, "This is the center of it all." Georgia took some ashes and a silver mirror that she had brought with her, chanted some mantras, and threw the ashes onto the painting. What happened next gave everyone goosebumps. Within moments, the faces appearing in the painting vanished. Georgia realized that this force was beyond her control and left immediately. But Adele was curious to know the truth behind this painting. They asked Monet to bring the painting with them to a professor. The professor explained that the painter of this painting was a man from a village named Silvio Madamba. In the beginning, he used to depict ordinary rural life through his paintings. But gradually, his paintings became terrifying, filled with mannequins, spirits, and shadows. It is said that Madamba had fallen in love with a model whom he considered his inspiration. One day, he lost control and misbehaved with the model, but the model struck him on the head with something, rendering him unconscious, and escaped from there. After that day, Madamba changed completely. He could no longer take interest in anyone else, and he began to trap women inside his house and harass them. It is said that he used to mix his own blood to prepare the paint and would tie women like mannequins and paint their portraits. As soon as the professor showed the picture of that model, Moan and Adele were left speechless, because the woman in the picture was Rosa. On the way home, Rosa told them that she only did modeling due to financial compulsion. She had no idea such a thing would happen. But Adele ignored her words and started questioning Moan. "Where exactly are your son and daughter?" Meanwhile, he was alone. Suddenly, the mannequin started approaching him, but around his neck was the rosary given to him by his father, which saved him. Unfortunately, Frida wasn't that lucky. Moments later, her face appeared inside the painting. When Moan reached home, her son told her everything. He showed her the rosary that his father, Jack, had given him. Moan and Rosa looked at each other. They suspected that Jack knew the entire secret. Now it was time for the 6 days' prayer. Adele was alone in her room, and suddenly she started laughing loudly. The very next moment, a live rat comes out of their mouth. Hearing the noise, Moan and her son run towards the room, but the rat suddenly vanishes. At the same time, the necklace hanging around her son's neck begins to glow faintly. Now Moan was completely convinced that the mysterious painting was the cause of all this destruction. So she decided that she would burn it. But during the seventh day's prayer, the same painting was seen hanging on the wall again, perfectly intact. Everyone present was left in complete shock. Then they all went back to that professor, who, after deep investigation, revealed that whoever had bought this painting had disappeared one by one. The last person to buy it was a Filipino businessman who had come to India from China for business. At that moment, Moan noticed her husband Jack's shadow in one corner of the painting. Now she was certain that Jack too had some connection with this painting. After that, they all went to the same woman, Seaman again, but she refused to help. She claimed that if she investigated the matter any deeper, the spirit trapped inside the painting could awaken. Just then, her pet crow with a black beak screamed loudly. Seaman explained that the crow was her spiritual power, and it had been circling around Moan's house for several days because it sensed negative energy there. She said that until the doll took everyone with it, this curse would not end. Moan revealed that she had a necklace that could stop the doll. She handed the necklace to Seaman. Seaman inspected the necklace and discovered that it was filled with red soil. With the help of the crow, they reached a place in the mountains where the same type of soil was found. Seaman made 3 necklaces from that soil, but when Moan asked for a 4th one, Seaman replied, "Rosa doesn't need it." Then the truth came out. In reality, Rosa died years ago in a road accident. Now she existed only as a spirit with Monet, and only Moan could see her. Seaman had a different vision, which is why she could also see Rosa. On the day of the accident, when Rosa came to pick up Moan from school, they saw Silvio Matambamba on the way. Their car brakes failed, and at the last moment, Rosa pushed Moan aside to save her, but got crushed under the car herself and died. When Moan told this to Kamla, everything became clear. It was Rosa who had hit Adele with a stick. When Adele's daughter started screaming, she saw an invisible stick floating in the air. The day Adele's son got scared, it was also because of the same reason. They all couldn't see Rosa. Now, Seaman said that this curse could only be broken if the one who brought the painting into the house was sacrificed. That's when the real truth was revealed. It was Jack who brought the painting home. Moan finally understood that Jack never truly loved her. He was only greedy for her property. He gave the necklace only to his son because he was his blood. The rest were unimportant to him. Upon hearing this truth, Moan fainted. The next day, her son messaged Jack, saying that Moan was no longer alive. Jack happily rushed home. But as soon as he arrived, he discovered that Moan was alive. It was all a plan to trap him. Adele quietly came from behind and hit him on the head with a stick. When Jack regained consciousness, he found himself tied to a chair. That same night was the 8th day of Moan's father's death anniversary. As soon as the prayer ceremony ended, Moan made a firm decision. She would no longer allow harm to the person who had destroyed the lives of her loved ones. This was her final act of justice for her deceased father and friends. Moan called Jack and bid him a final farewell. Then she placed the painting in front of him. Within moments, the shadows of all the souls whose deaths were linked to that painting began to appear. Jack's screams echoed from the room upstairs. Meanwhile, downstairs, Moan and her son hugged each other and broke down in tears. On the 9th day's prayer, Moan took Adele to her father's tomb. Adele let go of the anger and grievances she had held in her heart towards her husband for so many years. She now began living with Moan and her son, like a family, and Rosa, who had been with them in spirit all this time, finally decided to return to her own realm. With this, the story ends here. Let me know your thoughts. Also subscribe to this channel for more horror stories like this.